Here is a versatile recipe for dinner, lunch, or breakfast. Simple, quick, and economical. To prepare it, you will need some vegetables, starting with an onion that we will slice thinly before chopping it into very small pieces. Next, I take a green bell pepper and slice it into rings. Fairly thin rings, actually. Then I cut 4 tomatoes into large cubes. If you prefer, you can peel them, but personally, it doesn't bother me. You can also add any vegetables of your choice. I mixed a small bunch of parsley and cilantro, and I chopped them finely. Next, I will boil some eggs for 12 minutes. I used 4 eggs for this recipe, but you can add more if you want. Now, let's move on to cooking the vegetables. In a pan, I heat up some olive oil and start by adding only the sliced onions. I saute them in the pan for 3 to 4 minutes. First, I add 3 cloves of chopped garlic. So I saute the onions with the garlic, as I said, for 3 to 4 minutes until they start to brown. And then I add the bell peppers. I also add the tomatoes directly. It's a mix of vegetables that also goes really well with eggplants. So if they're in season, don't hesitate to add some. I season everything with salt.
Du poivre.
I also add a bit of ginger. I also add some cumin. I finish with a bit of turmeric. You can also add some mild chili. I stir to mix the spices well. Next, I add just a little water. So, you see, I put just a little at the bottom. Then I put the lid on and let my vegetables simmer for about 10 minutes. After 12 minutes of cooking, I put my hard-boiled eggs in ice water to stop the cooking. Really, parsley and cilantro, add them to all your dishes. They're what bring the most flavor. They add so much aroma. So I mix well and put the lid back on for another 5 minutes. In the meantime, I take the opportunity to peel the hard-boiled eggs. As I said earlier, you need to put them in very cold water to stop the cooking. Then I cut my hard-boiled eggs in half. And that's it. There's only one step left. We're going to put our hard-boiled eggs in the pan. So, first of all, I mix my vegetables one last time. I add a generous handful of grated cheese of your choice. I'm using mozzarella myself. And I place the hard-boiled eggs like this all around. I put the lid back on just long enough to let the cheese melt nicely. You see, I add another little layer all over. We're really indulgent. And as I said, we put the lid back on just long enough to let the cheese melt a little. 3 to 4 minutes is enough. We finish with a pinch of chopped parsley and cilantro. And it's ready. All that's left is to dig in and enjoy. I hope you liked the recipe.